Okay, let's remove all these eggs. We don't need the eggs just yet. Hello. How is everyone? I hope that you are surviving and fed out there. Let me know if this is too loud. So, I'm gonna get through business. Yeah, let's talk about business. So last time here on Twitch, we talked about lentils. I went on for like 15 minutes for my friend Ava. I hope that your lentils were good. If you cooked anything that I talked about, you should send me a picture and I'll put it on the stream next week. So last time we talked about lentils. I helped Erica out with some meal planning. Wes asked about bulgur wheat. That was very fascinating. I went off for like 5 minutes about dishwashing. It's really important, okay, guys? You should rewatch that clip. If you want to rewatch any of the clips from the last stream, you can hit the video tab here on Twitch, and you can see all of the highlights that I've made. So after every stream, I'm going to cut out all the really useful parts and make them highlights here on Twitch so you can go back and reference it when you're actually cooking. But last week we also talked about chia seeds and how to keep them from sticking to each other. Yeah, so Twitch deletes all these streams after 2 weeks until, you make affiliate or partner or something like that, but that's going to take a couple weeks for me to get there. So I'm going to be uploading the archive to youtube.com/JennDLV, JENNDLV. And so that's what we talked about last time. Oh, Carol, you did the butter sauce with some salmon last night, and Russ said it was the best salmon you ever made. You thought it was a little salty, but glad he was happy. Oh, it's amazing. Did you use salted butter or unsalted butter? That usually makes a difference. But now you know how much to use next time, which is great, or how little to use next time. But I'm glad I could help you guys make dinner. That was so nice. Happy April to you and to everyone else that is watching. I usually call April birth month, and I celebrate a little thing every day. And even though I can't see people, I'm trying to find like the little things that make me happy and will make other people who have birthdays in April happy. I was talking to somebody on Twitter today about his birthday, and I asked him what he was going to do, and he said, I'm going to make burgers, and I'm going to make burgers too this month in honor of him, and I'm going to make myself a good cocktail on Sunday, which is my birthday, April 5th. So yeah, so if you have little ways that I could make April amazing by celebrating in little ways at home, I'd love your advice, because it's really hard when you're by yourself trying to celebrate your birthday. But anyway, we have a lot of subjects to cover today. So I'm going to go through the things people asked about last week, which are farro, buckwheat groats, currants, and cacao nibs. And then I'll get to sort of quarantine survival cooking if you have questions in the chat. So if you have questions, put them in the chat and I'll try to get to it later. And then if I don't get to it, I'll save it for next week and do a lot of research about it, because that's what I did for these, which was really fun for me because I'm like a huge nerd. Anyway, so let's get started with, more business. I'm sorry, I forgot to talk about more business. So to keep this stream going and for me to sort of survive, my loss of work, I have a Patreon. There's a lot of free stuff for you, especially this giant living pantry guide that I'm working on. So if there are ingredients in your pantry that you're like confused about and you don't know how to use up, message it to me, take a picture, and then I will give you as many ideas as I can to use, with what you have. And then I'll add it to the pantry guide for everyone else to use. So I'm going to be working on that like every day, until we fill it up like a real pantry. I also have a free column that I just started called Wasure Mono, which means things that are left behind. And I want to explore and examine the most popular recipes online and talk about how many times you can make it, what are the ingredients that are left behind, and how you can use them up. So I want to be really helpful while you're social distancing. So the first recipe I'm going to tackle for that column is Jim Leahy's no-knead bread. That's in the New York Times. If you want to go ahead and make that, do it. It's a really easy, forgiving bread recipe, but I do all the math of how much flour is left and how much yeast is left and what can you do with yeast when you're not baking. So it's going to be really fun. Also on Patreon, I have subscription levels. So for $1 a month, you can get these free cheese guides and like downloadable things. And then $2 a month, it's 4 recipes. So basically a recipe a week. And I take requests. So lately we've been sharing ways to add acid to your diet or more citrus, vegan recipes, as well as everything in that category, every recipe that I share on Patreon, it's 5 ingredients or less with tons and tons of modifications and substitutions. And if you ever get stuck, you can always just message me. So that's really exciting. Also, I have an Etsy store. I have lots of things in stock still. I have barbecue rub, got rose salt, fish rub. Then I've also started adding, where are they? Large packs of the ranch powder. This is really good on fried chicken. And then also rye berries. These still have the hulls on. You can boil it like pasta in salted water. And then you can also, I learned today, sprout them. So I'm going to try to do that tomorrow and we'll report back so you can, participate with an experiment. Anyway, so that's the business. Cool. Hi, Jason. Wait, which cousin? I have 2 cousin Jasons. Oh, hey, what's up? I hope Southern California is treating you well and that you are safe and all your brothers are safe. Glad to see you. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to talk about a lot of food today. So, starting it off, we've got a request from Aviva about farro. So, how many of you have eaten farro before? It's an ancient grain from Mesopotamia. So, it's old. It's really old. Fertile Crescent old. It's got lots and lots of fiber. It's 20% of your daily intake and 24 grams of protein in just 1 cup. So that is way more protein than all the other grains that you're going to encounter on the shelf. So that's a really cool thing to know about farro. I didn't know that it packed so much in there. But the name farro is ethnobotanical. Love that. It's derived from Latin for a group of 3 wheat species. So this is really confusing. So farro is actually 3 different products. The one that we encounter the most is called emmer, or Triticum dicocum. And in Italy, it's like, I know this is really offensive, but Starbucks order sizes. So farro can be grande, medio, and piccolo. So rewind. Farro, 3 parts: spelt, emmer, einkorn. And then in Italian, farro grande, farro medio, farro piccolo. So it can be really confusing whether or not you're eating actual farro or not. So in the store, you're going to see things that are like pearled or semi-pearled, and whole farro. So the whole farro is the einkorn. It still has the husk, like the hulled wheat. And for those of you that live in New York, you can actually buy einkorn from the Union Square Farmers Market when they open again. I'm not sure if they are open, but I think they're trying to be. Anyway, so most of the time when you're talking about farro, we're talking about emmer, which is the middle one. Spelt is, I think that's the piccolo, like the smaller one, and that's usually sold as a cereal grain. So the word farro comes from Latin word farum. That's also where we get farina. Farina is like milled wheat, basically, or milled cereal, so it can refer to multiple kinds of grains. So, I know, it can be confusing. There's a really great origin here from Greek, pharon. It means plant deity. And that is amazing. Plant deity. I mean, this is an ancient grain that was referred to in Greece as a plant deity. I love that. So, for actually cooking farro, you can treat it like pasta. It's usually a 2.5 to 1 ratio, water to farro. So 2.5 cups of farro. No, I'm sorry, 2.5 cups of water to 1 cup of farro. Yeah. So you bring your water to a boil. I always like to add salt. I treat it like I'm making pasta. And it's 15 minutes of boiling, 15 to 20 minutes for pearled farro, 20 to 30 minutes for semi-pearled farro, and up to 40 minutes for the whole einkorn farro. And if you get einkorn or like the whole grain, you can treat them like beans. So you can soak them overnight in lots of water. I try to do 2 to 3 times more water when you're soaking anything because they blow up and absorb all the water. And then you soak them like beans, and then you can cook them the next day for only 10 to 15 minutes. So it's like fast forwarding the process. Overnight soaking is like one of my favorite things to do because, you're par cooking things without actually having to watch it or turn on any heat. So, plant deity. Hi, Wes. I know. It blows my mind. So once you've cooked farro, what do you do with it? You can throw it into soup, kind of like a barley soup or an Italian wedding soup. You can put it on top of a salad. You can make a grain bowl, like pretend you're going to dig in or chopped or something, and you can make breakfast and lunch bowls with egg, roasted vegetable, and add like a sauce like romesco or pesto. So, just imagine like we were at a restaurant, what would you order with a grain bowl? And pretty much farro can fall into any of those. It's really, really, really good with sauteed mushrooms or mushroom gravy. You can cook another goopy grain like millet with it to make a risotto. And you can also stuff vegetables with it, like eggplant and zucchini. Farro is a lot like the other grains we've talked about and really versatile. I said this last week, but when you are about to roast any grain, when you're about to cook any grain, it's a good idea to roast it either in the oven en masse, like in a single layer, for, just a couple minutes until you smell it toasting. Or you could do it in a saucepan with a little bit of olive oil, and that will, adds another flavor dimension to your grains. So it works with rice, farro, buckwheat, which I'm about to talk about next, and rye berries that I was telling you about. These. Aren't they beautiful? They're so beautiful. All right, do we have any other questions about farro so far before I move on to buckwheat? All right, I'm gonna change the music up here. It's been on disco for a while. Let's go. Bossa Nova. Gonna get a fill. Oh, yeah, listen to that fill. Okay. What temperature do I roast it at? If I were doing a lot of farro, like you know, I was gonna pre-roast it for cooking over the course of a week, I would roast it at like 400 degrees for like 3 to 4 minutes. So I wouldn't want to turn on the oven just for that. So if you're about to roast other things, I would, you know, sneak it in there. You know, that's something that I advocate for, is paying attention to residual heat. So residual heat is what is left over in the oven after you've turned it off. So residual heat is amazing for proofing bread. It's great for dehydrating things. So if you have like, you know, thinly sliced fruit ready in a single layer on a pan after you've roasted a chicken, you can turn the oven off, put the fruit there that you want to dry, and then crack the door open with a wooden spoon. I know that sounds like totally crazy, but it allows for air circulation if you don't have a dehydrator. So pay attention, residual heat, it's amazing. You can also do it on the stovetop. Well, not dehydrate anything, but I mean, there's a lot of residual heat on stoves. So after you've boiled some water in a pot and you're done cooking your pasta, that heat surface is still really, really hot. So if I had a dessert waiting, I would cover it and put it on that hot surface, you know? So think about what wasted heat you might be not using, you know? I think about it all the time. Hi! Oh my gosh, so many people have just joined. Hi, Samo. Good to see ya. Emily. Emily! I miss Emily. Emily, if you don't know who Emily is my cooking helper, spirit woman in the kitchen. She helps me cater events. She's been such a trooper. She's helped me scale up a lot by helping me with prep work and just looking out at my recipes. Like, I'll write instructions for her, and then she'll look and be like, did you actually mean a tablespoon, or do you actually mean this? So she's so great. She has my back all the time, and I miss you so much. I miss cooking with you. Emily has a YouTube channel. She talks about makeup and the world, so you should check her out. Please do. Cool. Does anyone have any general cooking questions right now? I'm gonna talk about buckwheat next. I'm gonna play more Casio fills if you have a question. If not, we'll save it for later. That's our buckwheat intro music. All right, so my friend Elisa asked about buckwheat. So she has 2 pounds of toasted buckwheat groats. What do I do with them? Whoa, okay. So despite the name, buckwheat is not actually related to wheat. That is insane. It's not a grass, so it doesn't have, you know, the same plant structure as wheat. So this is crazy. We went from farro, which is 3 kinds of wheat, to buckwheat that is not actually wheat. This is very tiring to keep track of all these grains. But buckwheat is related to sorrel, knotweed, and rhubarb. So that's crazy. It's known as a pseudo-cereal because its seeds are used, like in the culinary world, the same way as you would a cereal. So it has like a lot of complex carbohydrates. It's good for you. So the name buckwheat is actually a derivative of beech wheat. It comes from its triangular seeds. It resembles, this is so funny, like plant people named this. I mean, you know, it's like culinary people experienced it later in the cycle of discovering this. So plant people named it. It resembles the triangular seeds of a beech nut and a beech tree. And it's only called buckwheat because it's used like wheat. So it's similar in the way that when people make apps, you call it the Uber of this. So buckwheat, it's the wheat of beech trees. And it's not technically a beech tree. It just resembles the seeds of a beech tree. I don't know. You guys were smoking a lot of buckwheat when you were naming this thing. Anyway, it comes from Dutch, meaning beach. Cool. And wheat, which means wheat. Cool. So, like a lot of New York things, it's Dutch. That's New York names, it's Dutch. It's something in common. It's really cool. Checking in on the chat. Hello, everyone. Petra. So happy to see you. Oh, and Kate. Soft Leaves is Kate. Sorry. Different soft. You're right. Hello. Welcome. We are in the middle of talking about buckwheat. That is not actually wheat. It blows my mind. So it's been first cultivated in inland Southeast Asia around 6,000 BC, which is crazy. And that's how it, started to spread to Central Asia, Tibet, and the Middle East, in Europe. So the oldest, let's see. So the oldest buckwheat pollen was found in Japan in 4,000 BC. That is nuts. Okay. So like I mentioned with farro, when you mill these grains, it's called farina, or meal, buckwheat meal. So buckwheat flour comes from that. You might know it as the basis of Japanese soba. In groat form, Eastern European folks will know it as kasha, which are grains that are boiled in water or milk. How many of you have had kasha or kasha the cereal? That's it. That's buckwheat. Which is very exciting. Okay. So what do we do? How do we cook it? So a lot of recipes have been wavering between 1 3/4 cup water to 1 cup of buckwheat groats. But for me, if I didn't have measuring cups and if I was camping or something like that, I would just go 2 to 1 because buckwheat is very forgiving. It's acts like pasta. You can have too much water and then drain it off later. So what you do, take 2 cups of water, bring it to a boil with a pinch of salt, throw the buckwheat in, let it boil for about, I think, 10 to 15 minutes. You can test it at 10 minutes. See if you like that texture, bite into it. If it hurts your teeth and you can't bite into it, cook it longer. And then drain off any excess. That advice is from Bob's Red Mill. Fun fact, I met Bob a couple years ago. I have a photo with him on my wall. A framed photo of him on my wall. He's about 93 years old, and up until this year, he was still working every day. He would drive a Model T with his dog to the mill. It's an actual red mill. I've driven by it. It's located near Boring, Oregon. Having a mill in Boring, Oregon is not very boring. But anyway, I met Bob. He's really cool. He's a huge advocate of taking care of your gut and eating whole grains. So I don't feel like that's an advertisement, I legitimately love that product and love him, and he's really cool. So Emily says you've had kasha varnishkas, which if you remember right was buckwheat with lots of caramelized onions. Hell yeah, that sounds so good. You know what I would put on top of that? Dill. Yeah. Dope. Okay, so what else can we do with buckwheat? Once you cook it, you can mix it with pasta. You can stuff it inside cabbage. You can make it a porridge, like a breakfast oatmeal-y type thing with milk, honey, cinnamon, or make it savory, put an egg on it. You can soak them overnight in water for a breakfast parfait with fruit the next morning. You can make granola. You can roast the raw groats, so make sure they weren't toasted beforehand. You can roast them in a 300-degree oven for about 50 to 60 minutes, tossing every now and then. So follow any granola recipe and you can add in these raw groats and then roast it along with all the maple syrup and loveliness. You can throw them into your veggie burger mix. You can make croquettes. If you have a coffee grinder, you can grind them into flour to make cookies, cakes, and bread and crepes. And there's this website, NutriPlanet, that I found that has a fermented buckwheat bread where you soak it, rinse it to get the slimy germ off, and then blend it into a slurry for bread. There's no flour in that recipe because the buckwheat is acting as the flour. Fascinating. I hope that works, like, because I want to try that with all the rye berries that I have. Maybe if I soak them, make like a slurry, add yeast, then I can make my own breads. Oh my god! I can make my own, so many breads. So many breads. Oh my gosh. And finally, buckwheat, you know, if you roast it and you have it on hand, you can make it into tea. You can drink that soaking water. It's really wonderful because it's not caffeinated. So it's an option for me because I can't really handle caffeine. So buckwheat tea sounds amazing. All right, has anyone else eaten buckwheat? How do you eat your buckwheat? Tell us. Tell the chat. Oh yes, Kate. So you don't need a mill for that buckwheat bread recipe. It would be in the blender. So you soak the buckwheat, make sure it's soft enough, drain it, rinse it, and then blend it up. You add seeds and like, I'll share that recipe, but it's on a website called NutriPlanet. Yeah, I know, it blew my mind too. So I wonder if that theory applies to all the other grains. Like, could you make, you know, rice? You tried making buckwheat lemon bars this weekend. Oh, that sounds delicious. Your triple lemon bars where you add, oh, they didn't work. Well, what happened? Were they too tough? Or did they not hold? Oh, yeah, sour and bitterness. Sometimes, though, bitterness sneaks in with lemons because of the pith. Maybe they're just a little weird. Yeah, the proportion could change. I'd play with it. I wouldn't be discouraged. Buckwheat would be nice with chocolate. I did see a recipe earlier for buckwheat bark, if you can believe it. All right, let's see. Oh, so I talked about buckwheat and farro so far, and I have my big stack of books next to me. I think I found a lot about buckwheat and currants, but no farro so far. All right, so first book here, Glorious Stew by Dorothy Eivin. I found this in a thrift shop. Love this book because it's so retro. Like, look how yellow it is, first of all. And it has all these lovely... Oh, there's cards in here. Oh, this is where I found it. I found it at Uncommon Objects in Austin, Texas, which is a great thrift shop. My friend Patrick took me to this place, and this is where I got this book. So they have all these great 50s illustrations. Look at it. This is Glorious Stew. And a little section about buckwheat. Kasha, buckwheat groats. Kasha is a nice change from the usual starch, but it is a little strong for a delicate stew. So it would go with beef and sour cream or the basic brown beef stew with the potatoes left out. Cool. So the recipe says 2 cups whole kasha, so whole buckwheat groats, 2 eggs, 2 teaspoons salt, quarter teaspoon pepper, 2 tablespoons butter. So mix, okay, this is a strange step. Mix the kasha thoroughly with the eggs. In a 2-quart casserole. Oh, sorry. My rice cooker has gone off. Sorry, that was really loud. So mix the kasha with eggs. In a casserole, cook the egg and kasha mixture on a very low flame, stirring constantly for 10 or 20 minutes until the grains are separate and brown. At first, it sticks a bit and has to be scraped, but soon the grains separate and have to be stirred less often. The dish can be done ahead at this point. Whoa, what? There's like an egg coating on kasha? What's the purpose of that? Is it to make a more complete protein? because farro, like we talked about earlier, has, 24 grams of protein per cup, but buckwheat does not. So adding egg would be adding a lot more protein and heartiness, I guess, to the stew, but functionally I'm not sure what that means. Anyway, so you've prepped some kasha with egg, and then you bring it to a simmer with butter, hot water, salt, and then 30 minutes later it's absorbed and fluffy. Interesting. It says 2 cups will feed 6 to 8 people. So for me, I would cook 1 cup for a whole week. Okay, so that was buckwheat perspective from Dorothy Eivin's glorious stew. Let's see, who else has some buckwheat insight? Okay, Escoffier, which was the French chef from 1900s. Buckwheat. Moisten 1 pound of cracked buckwheat with enough tepid water to make a stiff paste. Add the necessary salt and put this paste in a large charlotte mold. Bake in a hot oven for 2 hours. Then remove the thick crust which is formed upon the preparation and transfer what remains by means of a spoon to a bowl. So basically, he says to make like a reverse tadig. Ha! Mix with 2 ounces of butter while it's still hot. Kasha prepared in this way may be served in a special vessel, but it's more often spread in a thin layer in a buttered pan and left to cool. Excuse me. Sorry. It is then cut into slices 1 inch in diameter, and then those are rolled in flour, browned on both sides, and very hot clarified butter. Oh my gosh, so it's like polenta fries. That's insane! Cool. Okay, so that's buckwheat perspective from Escoffier. I still have some other tabs in here for later, so I'll keep this book here. More buckwheat knowledge from James Beard, American Cookery. Let's see. Here we go. Kasha, or buckwheat groats. Middle Eastern and Jewish cooks use kasha a great deal as cereal for accompanying meats and fowl. It is strangely appealing. Strangely appealing! Nah, dude. Nutty flavor. It is a pleasant change from other grain dishes. Put the groats in a heated skillet over high heat. Add an egg. Okay, more egg. Stir vigorously. When each grain is separated and dry, add the boiling liquid and salt. Cover and reduce heat to simmer and steam 30 minutes until the liquid is absorbed. And then later, stir in butter or chicken fat. He had a Jewish friend for sure. Adding schmaltz at the end is the best. Cool. Oh, Samo says you've had buckwheat cold noodles. Lovely. Lovely, lovely. I need to make some soba. Haven't had that in a long time, and I have some in the pantry. I know, I'm really fascinated by the kasha tadig. I wonder if that will work with other grains. Like, it makes scientific sense to me. This is why, when I was growing up, this is why we were taught to wash rice. Because we get rid of that, like, gelatinous germ layer, and the rice grains steam separately. So, yeah. So that stuff that we wash off, that's rice flour, technically. And that's how, when you sometimes go to dumpling restaurants and they serve, like, that crackly, crunchy skirt on it, that is a rice flour slurry. So if rice can do that, it makes sense that other grains can also create a skirt or a tadig or a crunchy layer. So this is going to make me think for a while. So let's keep going on buckwheat here. This is from the Tartine All Day cookbook. Neat. This is for buckwheat flour. Buckwheat crepes. So you can do, if you have a coffee grinder, you can grind your buckwheat to a flour and then sift it, and then you'll be able to make lovely crepes like this. And another recipe here for buckwheat is buckwheat Dutch baby, which is a giant, giant pancake. I have one of those in my cookbook. Dope. Okay, so this one mixes oat flour, buckwheat flour, and rice flour. So if you're trying to get rid of all these specialty flours in your pantry, this Dutch baby recipe is pretty amazing. Cool. Good ideas. So many good ideas. So that's buckwheat from Tartine All Day. No one else has buckwheat. Buckwheat. Okay. All right, let's move on to another thing. Yeah, Dutch babies are underrated. Absolutely underrated. I'm going to adjust myself here. Yes. Let's fast forward to cacao. Yes, as requested by Kate. So in the chocolate making process, just like in cheese, there are multiple parts and steps and byproducts. So to make a kilogram or, 2-ish pounds of chocolate, about 300 to 600 beans are processed. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen a cacao fruit, but last year I took a class from, not last year, maybe 2 years ago, I took a class from Mast Brothers, and they smuggled, they smuggled the fresh fruit in for this class, and so we only had like 4 fruits, and they looked like aliens. They're like yellow, red, like blushy, beautiful things. They look like pumpkins, like vertical pumpkins. So you split them, and inside they have these like giant seeds that are covered in like white fruit. It's like a corn nut size, like giant corn size, with this really lovely, I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't like passion fruit. It wasn't tart. It was a blend between like peachy, plummy, banana-y, like very, very thin layer of fruit, and the seed was huge. And so the seed is like the cacao, like the actual cacao. So you can imagine these people like discovering this fruit, putting the fruit in their mouth, biting into the hard thing and be like, and then spitting it out and planting more trees. That's amazing to me. Anyway, so in the chocolate making process, so after, they harvest all this, they get all the fruit off and dry it, the beans are roasted. And then they're cracked and shelled by a tool called a winnower, and it's, you've probably seen something like this, where it's just 2 wheels, like 2 sandpapery granite wheels that meet, and then they stick the seeds in there, and it just cracks them open, and then everything falls down the bottom. And after the shell, the inside, the really, really tiny insides, those are the nibs. And they're sold, at baking places or at the grocery store for snacking, baking, cooking. They contain high amounts of theobromine. I'm not exactly sure what those are, but I'll look it up later. Most of these nibs are ground into a paste, and that is like the pure chocolate liquor, or, cocoa paste. And from there, you add sugar, milks, aromatics, that kind of stuff. Everybody has their own proprietary blend, but look, this segment has a show and tell. So I got these from Hawaii, roasted cacao nibs. I have to be really careful because the lid is like not very stable. You have them and you don't know what to do with them. Here, I have some. Yeah. So when you eat them, you could snack on them, but they're, ooh, sounds like durian. They could be related. I think their angiosperms or seeds look the same. I'll look into that. Good idea, Samo. So when I bite into it, at first you're like, this tastes like nothing. And then when you keep chewing on it, in the back of your mouth, it gets this like sour. I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna keep eating them. If you chew it in a paste with your saliva and get it on your tongue and rub it on the roof of your mouth. I'm sorry. That was horrible. But it's they're a bitter note, but if you chew it enough and add sugar, you can get that like raisiny, chocolatey flavor note. And you need a lot of them to do it because remember from, you know, what was it? What was the number? So out of 2 pounds of chocolate, there were 300 to 600 of the beans. And in each bean, there's like a quarter of a, not even, maybe an eighth of a teaspoon of nibs. So you would need a lot of this stuff to constitute chocolate or to get to that chocolate flavor. So you can see them here. Can you see these? I'm operating on a delay, so like I can't see what you're seeing right away. Yes. Oh yeah, I could do a virtual cheese tasting if we get the same cheese. We totally could. I don't know why I keep eating these, because it needs something else. Cool. So this is an 8-ounce bag. This is so much. I haven't gone through this over the course of a year. I need to start making more things with it. So mine's Manoa chocolate. These crunchy nibs are pure chocolate, rich in antioxidants, magnesium, and iron. Use these roasted seeds anywhere in recipes as you would peanuts, walnuts, or pine nuts. Try them with yogurt, salads, cereal, oatmeal, smoothies, pasta, baked goods, or an ice cream. So, they're not like a feature thing. You know, they're more of like a throw a handful into something here and there. Like the ingredients literally just says roasted cacao. That's right, Samo. Dough Donuts in Bed-Stuy makes passion fruit and cacao nib donut. That is my favorite flavor that they have. So this really bitter stuff will go great with lemon curd, bitter stuff. I mean, not bitter stuff. This bitter thing would go great with like citrus sour flavors. Oh, when I opened this, I made yogurt bars. I made frozen yogurt bars. You lay down some parchment on a sheet pan, put in a layer of yogurt, top it with cacao nibs, sliced fruit, and maybe some cinnamon sugar, and then I froze it, and then it's like frozen yogurt bars. You can just pick one out of the freezer and whenever you need, you know, a good snack. So I'm going to put these away because I'm going to keep snacking on them nervously, even though I didn't like the sensation. So yeah, the cacao nibs in general, now that we've learned so much about them, are more of an accompaniment, not something that you would feature unless there's, you know, anyone else has a better idea. Cool. So there's that, cacao nibs. So I feel like I had one here. Oh, I'm sorry, that was a loud noise. Okay. The Salad for President cookbook has one cacao recipe in here. Strawberries and coconut yogurt with cacao and halva crumble. So obviously I can't have the coconut milk, but you can. It says, do ahead. Place the can of coconut milk in the freezer for 1 hour or refrigerate overnight. Oh, so this is acting like a frozen yogurt, but it's the coconut milk. So quarter your strawberries. The cream should now be consolidated at the top from the can, blah, blah, blah. Transfer the cream to a medium bowl, reserving the liquid. Oh, so you're basically using only the coconut cream from the can. Add vanilla and syrup, blah, 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 blah. So this, look at that. It's beautiful. So it has cacao, chia seeds, vanilla extract, strawberries, and the fat from a coconut milk. Dang. Well, I hope someone tries that. Okay. What did you say, Emily? You said you used cacao nibs and salt on a chocolate caramel tart at your old bakery job. Wow. And it balanced the sugar and richness nicely. Plus, they're crunchy. You know, we've established earlier that I love crunchy things. So that's another plus. It's good for you. This is your daily intake of chocolate, you know, without all the sugar. So, awesome. Any other uses of cacao nibs? I would love to share more tips with everybody. Otherwise, we'll move on to currants. Let's do some, a music change up with currants. Let's go with, let's do a random. What is this? Reggae. Speed it up, y'all. What's the reggae fill sound like? Oh. Alright. Cool. That's our introduction to currants music. Alright, Sam asked about natural currants. I don't use these very often because they tend to be more expensive on the shelf. But for those of you that encounter them at the farmer's market this summer, you might find the fruit, or you might find the dried version later on in the season, you know, as people save them. They're called Zante currants, or Corinth raisins, or Corinthian raisins. They're dried berries of a small, sweet, seedless grape cultivar called the Black Corinth, or in Latin, Vitis vinifera. I took Latin in college. The currant is one of the oldest known raisins. The first written record of a currant was in 75 AD by Pliny the Elder, who described it as a tiny, juicy, thick-skinned grape in small bunches. So, how many of you had currants before? I bought white currants before, and they were like super, super tart. And they were kind of hard to remove from the stem. They're very little, and I don't know, numerous is the word that I'm thinking of when I think of currants. Anyway, moving on. They're very small, they're very sweet, they're very intense for the size of grape, so they're very little and very intense. Sometimes they're often marketed under champagne grapes. Interesting. I thought those were totally different things. Huh. Well, anyway, despite the name, they are not actually used for champagne, because that is a regional thing in France. Like, it's a name-protected substance. So champagne can only be made in Champagne with the grapes from Champagne. Anyway, I'll go off on that another time. So when you dry currants, they're used in a lot of baking, currant cake, scones, currant buns, Christmas cake, Christmas pudding, mincemeat. They're also, you know, pawned off in a lot of dried fruit mixes. Mixed dried fruit, it usually has currants in it. So if you need like a tablespoon of currants, you could just go get like a mixed fruit thing and pick out all the currants that you need. It's very funny. This is such a strange note for them to put, like, when you're trying to learn about currants. They're not a significant source of vitamin C. Okay. Thanks. I'm gonna get scurvy if I eat a bunch of currants. So if I'm, like, running through a grocery away from, like, zombies, don't grab the currants because they don't have enough vitamin C and you'll get scurvy in your hideout. I'm sorry I said that. Yeah. So along with grapes and raisins, Zente currants are nephrotoxic to dogs. So let's break down that word, nephrotoxic. Nephrons are the parts of your kidney that help you pee, and nephrotoxic, so toxic to the kidney, in dogs. So be really careful if you have a dog. Don't let them eat the currants. So we already mentioned like scones, cookies, breads, muffin rolls. But one of the easiest way to get rid of a lot of currants is to make a syrup. So simple syrup, like I mentioned last week, is 1:1 water, sugar. Bring it to a boil and stir it around until it dissolves and turn it off, remove it from the heat. So the way you can do this with currants is... wait a minute, there's a note here that I read earlier. I'll return to simple syrup in a second. Escoffier mentions currants. Again, this is the French cookbook. I feel like I had a note here about currants. Here we go. Recipe 2353. Yeah. Currants and sultana raisins. Sultana raisins and currants should always be at hand, ready and cleaned. Cleaned, I'm going to say with quotation marks. To clean them, first dredge them and rub them in a towel closed to form sort of a purse. Now turn them into a sieve or colander and shake vigorously. Oh, wait a minute. Dredge them. He's saying to dredge currants on the stem in flour. And then put them in a tea towel. You know, jostle them around vigorously. Throw that in a colander, shake it around, and then remove all the stems. Now you have like a bunch of dusty currants. Okay, so you shake it all off, shake off all the flour, and then I would assume rinse them again. That would make it pasty and weird. But you know what? This is genius. This is actually genius. Dusting it in flour is what you do to make sure that fruits stay suspended in scones. Because adding that layer of flour creates more resistance against the dough, and it's like, if you were falling down a chute, what is the first thing you do? You go like this. Like, you try to get your feet and hands against two surfaces, you know, to keep yourself there and suspended. So that is what fruit is doing in baked goods. So a lot of the times when you're baking with raspberries, blueberries, now currants, you would toss them in some flour so that it would, you know, stick in the batter better and not sink all to the bottom or float all to the top. But this is a way to get the stems off. Interesting. So before I move on to more currant stuff, so what I was saying with simple syrup, 1:1 water to sugar, and then probably a farmer's market pint of currants. You could do your work, you know, to get all the stems off, but you could just throw it all in there, crush them up, get the simple syrup made, let it steep, and then strain that. And then you strain both the fruit and the stems out. If you're making like a jam jelly situation, then yeah, I would remove all of the stems. But those are some interesting hacks with currants. Let's see. I got another thing here for red currant sauce, recipe 2411. Melt some red currant jelly and flavor it with kirsch. So it assumes that you've already made jelly. Excuse me. I don't know. It's been a nice sunny day, but I am suffering allergy-wise. Are you suffering with allergies? Because, yeah, it's awful. Okay. Red currant sauce. Take some red currant jelly, flavor it with kirsch. This sauce may be slightly thickened with arrowroot or cornstarch. So when working with cornstarch, don't just throw it in there in the sauce. You always make a cold water slurry with cornstarch and then whisk it in. I haven't worked with arrowroot as much, so To be safe, I would only mix it with a little bit of the jelly first and then whisk it into the rest. Okay, we also have more currant stuff. Oh, here, the red currant jelly that you should have already made. Why would you reference that earlier in the book if you haven't told people how to make it yet? Cookbook writing tip there. If you're gonna reference recipes, you should spell it out beforehand instead of putting it at the end. Prepare juice as directed. Okay. Oh, so add 1 pound of icing sugar or confectioner sugar per quart of juice. And keep the whole in a cool place for 2 or 3 hours, taking care to stir it frequently. Oh, so it's like sugar glaze. I'll have to do the math later, but to scale it down, this could apply to pretty much any juice. So a quart of juice with 1 pound of confectioner sugar would make you a currant jelly. It's not a jelly. That's icing. That's crazy to me. This jelly is fragile as it is delicate and should be kept in a dry place. Yes. That's so funny. That's so funny. That deserves a fill. Yeah. Thank you, Escoffier, for that insight about what is not jelly. Okay. Does anyone have any cooking questions in the chat? Whoa, I've been streaming for like an hour. Wait, he doesn't cook it at all. No. Literally no. Emily, he does not cook it. He's this old man from the French 1900s, so I don't know why you would call it a jelly. I think it's because they were using this icing as like a spread on things or to go with meat. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I could cross-reference all the recipes that it goes with and check, but that would take me weeks. Alright, does anyone have any questions in the chat? Cooking? What have you been eating? What if you have a big bag of rye berry? So just like buckwheat, you can boil it 2 to 1, so 2 cups of water to 1 cup of your rye berry. Boil it, salted water, like pasta. 15 to 20 minutes. I would check it at 15. It could be up to 30, depending, you know, how rigorous your boil is. You can also sprout them. I think Wes, who's in the chat, has been sprouting them. I haven't tried that yet, but I'm excited to. Rye berries, I love serving them with dried cherries and oregano and olive oil. It's super, super simple. That's like one of my go-tos because it's so like already toasty smelling that it doesn't really need much. It can replace barley in a barley soup. You know, you can throw it into things, omelets, veggie burgers, non-meat meatballs. Your sprouts are amazing. I'm gonna have to sprout some and show people. I know, I really need to do that. Yeah. Okay. Samo says, I have a jar of dried black lime and a jar of dried sumac in the cupboard. How do you use them? Samo. Okay, so dried black lime is Omani lime. I think I have some in the pantry. Let me see. Let me put up a screen. I'll be back. Let me go get that and get a couple things. And I'm going to turn up the music real quick. I'll be right back, everybody. How about I play some accompaniment here? That was great. All right, I'm gonna look something up for you. Okay. Coming back. Oop. I didn't break it, I promise. Thanks for sticking with me for the last hour, everybody. To reward all of us, I'm just gonna put an egg on me. It's a poached egg. My friend Rachel made these pixel eggs for me, and every now and then to pass the time, I will put an egg on myself during the stream. So going back, I have a black lemon Omani lime from Oaktown Spice Shop. What did Emily say? Sumac is a great stand-in for lemon. True. And if you make something that needs a sour touch. Yeah. Sumac, so if you think of all the things that go with lemon, so like fresh mint, thyme, those are great pairings. Yeah, Oaktown Spice Shop, represent. So these two items, sumac and Omani lime, are pretty interchangeable. It's a good way to get your like citrus intake. The way that I use this and sumac the most is over labna or yogurt. You know, savory yogurt. If I grate a piece of garlic, mix it with some yogurt in a bowl, and then sprinkle this stuff, and then some crunchies like almonds or fried onion. That is like a really easy thing to do. You can roast chicken with this. So salt, pepper, and then lime. Sumac works really well on chicken. It also works really well on roasted lamb as well. I have this hilarious picture on Instagram of a giant Easter lamb leg that I've roasted in sumac, basically. So I would, I'd be generous with it if you have a lot of it, because, you can't really get enough of that lemony taste. Yeah. So what does the internet say? Oh, you already have some Greek yogurt and almonds in the cupboard. Perfect. So it's a lime that's lost its water content, usually after having... Oh, so it's dried in the sun. And used in a lot of Middle Eastern dishes. Great. Yeah. They're used to add a sour flavor to dishes through a process known as souring. They're used to flavor stews and soups. Ooh, fish. Hell yeah. Steam some fish with it. That sounds good. Okay, you guys know what time it is of the stream? It is time to say hi to Garbra. Say hello to Garbra. And Bonzo, who have been keeping me company for the last 2 weeks. If you've never met them before, this is who they are. Yes, you should get some tilapia fillets. Be careful when you buy fish and refreeze it, because a lot of the times the fish in big box grocery stores have been frozen already once or twice. And so every time you freeze and defrost something, it passes through the danger zone, which is 40 degrees through 140 degrees. And that is a zone where bacteria can grow the most. So every time you defrost something, you pass this flag of like the danger zone. And so it's recommended that you only freeze things twice ever. This is a food safety thing. So if you don't know how many times it's been frozen, then you should probably not defer to freezing them again. Hi, Matt! Everybody, Matt's here! This is Garbra. So I'm going to answer more of your cooking questions. Wait, what's this? Emily is saying moussakhan is an amazing Palestinian dish with chicken, caramelized onion, tons of sumac, and bread. Oh, man, that sounds good. Emily, later, if you can tweet me a recipe to that, I will retweet it. That sounds so good, yo. Ugh. This is why I miss you. You see? Emily, seriously. Okay, everybody. I'm gonna answer your questions while I create another friend of the family. This is gonna be Bea. Is there a recipe that I've ever found that I just cannot make well? Well, let me tell you. I've messed up so many recipes, dude. So some of them are even my own. I was explaining this to somebody recently that I actually am a terrible cook for myself. If I'm not cooking for other people, I mess up more often. Isn't that crazy? Oh, thanks, Matt, for hosting my channel. If you don't know what that means, everybody who has a Twitch account can host other channels on your account. So if you're not online and someone else is streaming, you can choose to auto-host them whenever you're offline and they're streaming. So you can spread the love and get more audience to those people. So for me, on my hosting list, I have Baby Castles, which is a venue that held one of my exhibits, and The Tank, which is a theater that is closed right now, and I'm on their board. But anyway, things that I cannot make well. I'm sorry, I get distracted. Things I can't make well. I tried to make cheese soufflés, and at first I thought that I made them really well. And I took I took my Insta photo and I was like, oh, I made them, they're so successful. And literally a minute later, they deflated. Like, it just went, like, so dumb. And then I learned that you cannot refrigerate them. I felt really dumb after that. Most baking I'm really bad at, but I'm trying to get better at it and trying to understand it as a person who improvises a lot. Yeah, so baking is not very friendly to improvisation. And I just, I love throwing things into the pot. I love, understanding reactions between ingredients and how to use things, and baking is just not conducive to that. So most of the time I'm really bad at baking. But trying. Like when I was younger, I didn't know that you need to cool cakes before you ice them. Because, if you can imagine 8-year-old me making a Betty Crocker cake from a box. And then it just come out of the oven. I just got it onto a plate. And then I put the icing on and it's melting everywhere. It's so sad. It's so sad. So if you're a first-time baker, cool your cakes, man. Alright, so I made an outline. So Bonzo and Garbra were modeled after hands. So Bonzo is this way, Garbra is this way, and now Bea is like this way. You see Garbra and Bea? Yeah. I'm gonna turn Garbra around to look. Look at Bea, your child. Then I'm gonna draw some eyes. Does anyone have any other cooking questions right now while I draw Bea? I'm really glad you're here. Cool your cakes, man. I should make that a sticker. Cool your cakes, man. It should be of a cake on a skateboard. Because now I'm did you know now I'm a YouTube skater? Just kidding, I'm not. Though that is something that's happening. I'm updating my YouTube. My URL is /JennDLV, JENNDLV. I'm uploading skate videos every Monday now. Because I'm trying to go every day that it's sunny and that I'm able. And yeah, it's hilarious. I'm trying to learn new tricks and it scares the living daylights out of me. But that's why I do things, because they scare me. Alright, drawing some eyes. I wish I had another camera to show you this, but I'll just show you as I'm doing it. Bea has side-eye. You'd love that as a sticker? I know. I should make a Patreon sticker. I'll ask Drip to make it. She'll... Hey, you know what? We're gonna make Bea a punk can of beans. My companion. Yeah. And have a mouth open. And have some toothy grin, I think. Yeah. Teeth. I'm cracking myself up drawing on a can of beans. Hey, while I'm doing this, if you don't have a cooking question, tell me what you've been eating lately. Just so I give everyone else some ideas of what to do while they're social distancing. I try to go shopping every Sunday, and so I'd love to make a shopping list of things. Oh, I've got Sharpie on my fingers from doing this. Look, there's Bea so far. There's a high chance that I'll make myself very high doing this because I paint with nail polish. Let's get my colors here. You see that I used to have like this nail polish subscription on Julep, and I don't really paint my nails anymore. So let's get some blue punk hair here for Bea. You've been making experimental ramen risotto. Tell me more about that, please, Kate. What does that mean? I did cold noodle. I did spicy cold noodle the other day with the Fly by Jing chili oil and grated egg yolk, cured egg yolk. I'm going to try and make eggplant parm tonight. Samo, that's a great idea. I worry about that because it's like such a big dish and that I would never finish it. Like I have no room in the freezer. I'm actually almost, maybe after this week I'll be through with my fridge and I'll be able to start defrosting things from the freezer. I mean, I've started to eat a little bit from the freezer, but my fridge is so full that I haven't really, ventured outside of that. You have some leftover ramen broth from yesterday using that. I love your trick, Kate, of adding, it's Arcady's trick, but using Marmite in a vegetable broth for ramen. Sounds like that's amazing. I've never actually had it myself, but I think I would really like it because people describe it as being cheesy or just really strong. So I'm into that. Emily, it's time to cure some egg yolks. It's pretty easy. You could just like leave them in salt for a while. Some recipes have like a combination of salt and sugar. I did mine from a salt brine, which is from Karen Solomon's book, Asian Pickles. I can happily share a screenshot of that with anyone that is interested in curing eggs at room temperature in salt water. It's a little risky, but I mean, live on the edge. You've been making Kenji from Serious Eats vegan instant pot risotto. It has miso in it. Usually add lots of chives or scallions. Hell yeah! How many of you are growing scallions? I'm growing scallions, but I'm eating them a little too quickly. I need to let them grow more before I eat more of my scallions. So I'm just going to do a different pattern on this side for Bea's hair. Bea has blue hair, by the way, everyone. We're going to do streaks. We're going to do streaks in Bea's hair. Yeah, I made the crazy anise cured eggs at room temperature for 8 weeks. So this is, so there's the solid hair and then the streaky hair that I'm going to do. Yeah, I was afraid I gave myself botulism, but I didn't. Thank goodness. I mean, it's the last thing I need during a pandemic is I've poisoned myself. Ooh, we're doing like a yellow bluey hair streak thing here for Bea. What else is everyone cooking? Or what do you want to cook? Is there something that you want to cook and haven't gotten around to yet? Me, I have for dinner right now in the oven, I have a slow roasting chicken quarter, and I'm going to turn up the oven after this and crisp up the skin. And I'll show you what I have as my appetizer slash snack after I'm done painting this. But I made a typo when I was talking about the stream on Twitter. I said I'm going to steam live. And to make it right, I have my steamer plugged in next to me. So I will show you what's inside that in a second after I finish painting Bea. You know, so the tweet was correct. I didn't make a typo. What are you talking about? Oh, Bea, you're so joyful. I'm so jealous of you. I'm just kidding. I'm pretty joyful. Happy April 1st, everybody. It is the beginning of what I call birth month. Every April, I sort of get a lot of creative energy and celebrate the entire month as if it's my birthday. My birthday is technically on Sunday, but today is the beginning of birth month, and I want people to appreciate and praise their local Aries. So praise an Aries today. Not me, but find another Aries to praise. Because they need it. Most of the time Aries are like really extroverted and need people to function. So that's me. I'm just kidding. You don't have to praise an Aries today. Ooh, we got some sparkle here. Oh, we're gonna do some sparkle. Bea's can. Bea is like really, really hype. Like, Bea's like, this isn't a quarantine. This is just a time for me to be dope. Alright, almost done. I gotta do Bea's face here. I want to be... She kind of looks like that Rick and Morty. Regrets. I didn't mean for that to happen. It just happened. Alright, while I'm on the home stretch of painting Bea, let's put another egg on me. That's the omelet. If you like the eggs, you should check out my friend's artwork. She's on here on Twitch as DROMGP. She goes by Drip. But the OMG is an exclamation point. Alright. I gotta paint this tongue. I need a red. Gonna get a sparkly tongue. Any other cooking questions before I finish up Bea and go have my own dinner? This is making me laugh so hard. Oh my god. I'm so weird for doing this. Thank you for being my friends. Thanks for being my friends and watching me do something really crazy and silly. Taking your cooking questions. Painting on a can of garbanzo beans. Oops, I've erased her nose accidentally. But I wanted her to look beautiful. I'll have to draw her nose back on later, after this dries. Alright, presenting to you, the internet, this is Bea, with no nose. Oh, my hair is stuck to it, oh no. Oh, Bea, you gotta get dry over here. Okay. friends, we're nearing about an hour and a half when I usually finish up. If you don't have any more questions, I'm going to show you what I'm making in my steamer. Oh, Emily says you still have the tail end of a bunch of Chinese chives if I have any ideas. Oh, I will happily talk about cornmeal next week. I want to do a lot of research for that, so I will. Chinese chives. So, besides, you know, throwing it into rice that's in the middle of cooking, like you could have chive rice, you know, and steam it along with the rice. You know, you can always pesto it. These are the chives that are thick and flat, right, Emily? They're not the buds. Because if they were the thicker stalks with the buds, you could pickle them. But if they're the flat kind, then no. I mean, you could try to pickle them, but it won't last very long. You could do chive oil, chive pesto. You blanch them really quick and blend them up. Pour in the oil, let it steep, and then cheesecloth it, and you get a bright green oil. But yeah, usually chives are like a garnish, you know? You can make chive salt. You can make, you know, in the style of me, you can make chive salt. Okay, let's check on what's in my steamer because I didn't want my tweet to lie. I'm live steaming. Okay. Oh, all right, in my steamer, I laid down a bed of broccoli rabe. And then I have 3 mystery dumplings that I don't remember. When you're a chef, you're supposed to label everything. But when I'm at home, you know, all that discipline falls by the wayside, and I don't label things like I should. So I don't know what those dumplings are. I think 2 are lumpia and 1 is vegetable. And you saw that I had it on a bed of broccoli rabe. So when you steam anything, especially dumplings or pasta things that are like really sticky, you want to either spray the steamer with oil or brush oil on there and put the dumplings on, or put down a layer of cabbage, sturdy greens like collard or broccoli rabe, or kale, so that you can remove the dumplings from it very easily without, you know, it sticking to the steamer. So that's my trick, like putting vegetables underneath dumplings to steam. Making sure, of course, that they can still steam the vegetables. So you wouldn't do a solid vegetable like potato, because then you would block up all the holes. Cool. So I'm gonna get my dinner ready. I'm gonna put more eggs on me as I say goodbye to you. So thanks everybody for sticking with me. Yes, next week we'll talk about cornmeal. If you have any other requests for next week, tweet me, Instagram me, leave it in the chat here. I'll take a look. And I'll do a lot of research and look through my cookbooks because it's been really fun. This hour goes by so quickly because I'm having so much fun with it. But yeah, I appreciate all of you. For birth month, if you could tell a friend about these Wednesday streams or following me on Instagram or Twitter or any of that, that would really help me get through and like cater, you know, when the world comes back. So, thank you. I miss you all, and I'm gonna switch screens and play us out on the keyboard here. Oops, I didn't break it. Bye.